In the story's beginning, a nighttime scene reveals Ye Bei cultivating. Suddenly, a system alert announces the last apprentice of the host breaking through the Saint Realm. Ye Bei, startled, awakens after some time observing his hands and questioning if he's being resurrected. He reflects on being dead for 300 years and now finding himself alive. Ye Bei clenches his fists, exclaiming to the system about his journey from a traveler to activating the initial system and aspiring to become an emperor, even adopting female disciples. His disciples cheer for him eagerly, addressing him as master. Ye Bei laughs, discussing how the system reminded him that accepting 108 apprentices could change his fate, though his lifespan limits this possibility, especially now that all his apprentices have advanced to the Saint Realm, qualifying him as the host and altering his destiny in just 3 minutes. Ye Bei reflected that after 300 years he had finally waited for that day. He wondered aloud if he was inside a coffin and asked the system whether it could inform him which of his apprentices had broken through to the Saint Realm. He expressed his desire to see which apprentice had taken 300 years to achieve this milestone, frustrated that the system maintained the apprentice's privacy. He then inquired about when the second-to-last disciple had achieved this feat, to which the system hinted it was 230 years ago. Ye Bei, visibly angry, exclaimed that if the last apprentice had broken through 230 years ago, he should have been resurrected sooner. Meanwhile, the system hinted at the beginning of a change in fate. Ye Bei, still upset, vowed that once he changed his fate, he would immediately seek out the hidden disciple and ensure they experienced the neglect they endured for 300 years. The standing disciple exclaimed with admiration that Old Lai was impressive, especially for a late half-saint realm. Another disciple eagerly suggested they go inside and take a look. Subsequently, all the disciples opened the door and began entering. Upon seeing the dragon-shaped Qiankun wood on the wooden board inside, one disciple reacted in surprise, noting the large size of the Qiankun wood. Another disciple explained that it was the best material for crafting high-quality savings, spirit treasures, and supreme magical instruments, expressing awe at its extravagance. The first disciple, observing all the aura pouring into the coffin, speculated about its significance. A second disciple interrupted, exclaiming, "Treasure." Old Lai then confidently asserted that he would open the coffin, using his power to command it to open. As the coffin slowly opened, revealing Ye Bei inside, one disciple exclaimed in shock, "Holy sh*!" This is. Another questioned whether the man was truly dead, as they sensed he was full of vitality. The disciple, observing Ye Bai's body inside the coffin, commented that he appeared dead, concluding that the Supreme Devil Emperor had passed away naturally at the end of his life. They speculated that someone must have placed a supreme treasure in his mouth to preserve his flesh so spiritually. Old Lei firmly instructed them to extract Ye Bei from the coffin. As they reached inside to lift him out, Ye Bei unexpectedly opened his eyes. Old Lai and the disciple expressed surprise, exclaiming that the corpse was moving. Addressing them, Ye Bei remarked on their audacity as tomb raiders. The disciple questioned his identity and reason for being there. Ye Bei confidently responded that the mausoleum was constructed for him, asserting his identity as the Supreme Devil Emperor. The disciple argued it was impossible, citing the emperor's death 300 years ago and questioning how he could appear youthful. Old Lai clarified that while he sensed Ye Bai's cultivation, he was merely at the condensation realm level. The disciple exclaimed that it was true and noted that Ye Bei had quickly broken through the concentrating state. Ye Bei then stood up inside the coffin. The disciple, holding up his sword, demanded that Ye Bei explain himself and reveal the location of the treasure. He continued with a threat, warning Ye Bei not to withhold information. Ye Bei chuckled in response, commenting on the disciple's aggressiveness. The disciple charged at Ye Bei, shouting a farewell. Old Lai and the disciple were subsequently shocked by Ye Bai's actions. The disciple attacked Ye Bei, who stopped the sword with his finger. Witnessing this, the disciple began to question how Ye Bei could achieve such a feat after using his full power. Ye Bei teased the disciple, asking if he wanted to retract his attack, and added that it was too late. He then snapped the sword with his finger. Ye Bei lifted the disciple by the neck and remarked that a garbage realm trash was so eager to die, questioning if his life was too long or if he was too impatient to live. Old Lai and the other disciples were shocked by this scene. The disciple screamed for help, urging others to intervene. Another disciple rushed towards Ye Bei, demanding he put the first disciple down. Ye Bei sternly questioned who allowed Thumma to yell in his presence, then squeezed the first disciple's neck and blasted him away. The second disciple observed in disbelief how easily Ye Bei dispatched the late-stage powerhouse within seconds, wondering how Ye Bei could remain composed at that moment. Ye Bei approached the remaining disciple, commenting that it seemed they didn't want to live anymore. He then grabbed the disciple's head and swiftly separated it from their body. The standing disciple recalled that the strong man was in the last stage of the divine court realm and was killed with a single blow, pondering aloud about Ye Bai's immense strength. Ye Bei, holding the severed head of the disciple, calmly stated that the next one would be dealt with similarly. The disciple inquired of Mr. Li what their next course of action should be. Old Lai exclaimed urgently, asking why they were still standing there and instructing them to run. He emphasized that compared to treasures, life was more important, and that they needed to prioritize survival. Internally, Old Lai speculated that Ye Bei was not going to pursue them. Ye Bei emitted aura and directed it toward Old Li, causing him to fall and triggering a surrounding formation. Old Lai was astonished, questioning the sudden appearance of the formation since there had been nothing there when he entered. He wondered about Ye Bai's true strength, considering if he might be at the half-saint, saint, or even higher realm. He speculated aloud whether Ye Bei truly was the supreme devil emperor. Ye Bei mocked the idea of escape, and two disciples kneeled, one pleading for forgiveness, explaining they were only employees and had no intention of offending him. The other quickly added that he worked part-time and was following the other man's lead. Ye Bei coldly ordered their demise, using his power to incinerate both disciples. Old Lai reflected on the horror of Ye Bai's actions, describing him as not human but a ghost, repeating the assertion for emphasis. Old Lai, begging for his life, pleaded for mercy from Ye Bei, promising that he would never repeat his actions and offering to surrender everything if spared. Ye Bei demanded to know the whereabouts of the people who built the tomb. Old Lai confessed that he did not know which expert was responsible for its construction. Ye Bei responded by questioning the utility of sparing him. In a panic, Old Lai explained that while he did not know, he suggested contacting the Jinyi Anbu in Yunfan City, as they might have the information. Ye Bei asked for clarification, and Old Lai elaborated that Jinyi Anbu was an intelligence organization founded by a mysterious man 200 years ago. He explained that by paying a sufficient price, one could obtain information from them, highlighting the organization's power and influence across the entire Zhongyuan domain. Ye Bei began to think about Jinyi Anbu, acknowledging that expanding an intelligence organization to such a degree would be challenging, especially considering the old bastard's reckless temper. Old Li pleaded, insisting that whatever Ye Bei wanted to know, the Jinyi Anbu would have the information. He offered to guide Ye Bei to them, begging not to be killed. However, Ye Bei burned Old Lai with his energy, remarking that he shouldn't be so greedy in his next life. A system notification then appeared, indicating that Ye Bei would receive a reward for finding each lost apprentice. Ye Bei laughed and exclaimed that it was finally his turn to reap a good harvest, declaring his intention to find his apprentices. Ranked 36th among the highest array masters in the Central Plains, Zhu ordered someone to deliver a message to Lei Yushin, telling her that her home was on fire and she should come to him immediately. He also instructed that all team members be prepared, expressing his desire for the world to know that those who robbed his master's tomb, no matter how far, would be punished. The soldiers responded in unison, acknowledging his orders. Zhu emphasized the urgency of their departure and reassured his master that he would do his best to find the ancient secret array that could revive him. Meanwhile, the bustling market scene was filled with vendors shouting about their goods, offering sunflower seeds, peanuts, instant noodles, protected covers, bone readings, and divinations of past and present lives. Looking towards the city, Ye Bei remarked that Yunfan City was livelier than before. As his stomach growled, he commented on his hunger, noting that he hadn't eaten for hundreds of years. Ye Bei thought to himself that he needed to fill his stomach before attending to business. Approaching a shop, he greeted the boy sweeping and asked which restaurant was the best in Yunfan City. The boy, still sweeping, responded that it was the gold-lettered sign of Mrs. Chef, Haishan Lao Restaurant. Ye Bei repeated the name, and the boy pointed him in the right direction. As Ye Bei approached Haishan Lao Restaurant, he heard a voice instructing people to line up and pay attention to the order. Excited, Ye Bei wondered if he was back on Earth, hearing the name Haishan Lao alongside McDonald's chicken. A nearby person commented on the prosperity of Yunfan City, attributing it to their master chef, who was now in the Saint Realm and rarely seen. Ye Bei then encountered the boy, who remarked on the beauty of the master chef and wondered if he would ever see her. He offered Ye Bei one of their new products, a weapon set, boasting a variety of options. Ye Bei thought that among his apprentices who were good at cooking, it must be Fan Xiao Tong, ranked 40th, and speculated if this master chef was her apprentice. He felt obliged to check on the disciples and grandchildren she had trained. The boy then pleaded with Ye Bei not to leave, offering him a discount. At the restaurant, a sign for Haishan Lao was visible, with a note indicating that the dish Buddha Jumps Over the Wall was a real Chinese dish that could be searched online. Looking at the menu, Ye Bei remarked that, except for the Buddha Jumps Over the Wall, the other dishes were bland and boring. He ordered the usual dish, asking for a serving of the monster beast Buddha Jumps Over the Wall. A servant responded to Mr. Pan, acknowledging his order and asking him to wait a moment. Mr. Pan commented that he had invited two beauties to try the most famous monster beast Buddha jumps over the wall in Yunfan City, noting that it was equivalent to 10,000 gold coins and that no one but the Lord could afford it. One girl remarked that young Master Pan, as the proud son of the Scarlet Sun Sect, had a unique way of doing things. The other girl added that it was a blessing for her to accompany Master Pan that day. Ye Bei then instructed the servant to bring him a Buddha jumps over the wall as well. The servant explained that the shop's rule was to pay first before serving and asked if Ye Bei wanted to pay with spirit stones or gold coins. Ye Bei threw spirit stones on the table and told the servant to take the extra as a tip. The servant, astonished, exclaimed that they were spirit stones and asked Ye Bei to wait a moment. A person sitting nearby exclaimed in surprise upon seeing Mr. Pan order a monster beast Buddha jumps over the wall. Another commented on Ye Bai's even greater generosity for ordering the same dish. A third person questioned who Ye Bei was, noting his casual use of 5 spirit stones. Hearing this, Mr. Pan looked angry. The servant then served Mr. Pan his monster beast Buddha jumps over the wall, inviting him to eat slowly. Pan, pleased, commented on the dish's deliciousness and its ability to improve cultivation levels. One girl remarked on the fragrance, saying she could hardly stand it. Pan offered to personally feed her, while the other girl expressed her desire for some as well. Ye Bei asked how the dish tasted, boasting that such earthly delicacies were reserved for people of status like him. Internally, he wondered if the monster beast Buddha jumps over the wall tasted like the food made by Fan Xiao Tong. Pan fed the girl, who thanked him, acknowledging the benefits she gained from his generosity. Ye Bei, becoming angry, punched the table and stood up, shouting, questioning who made the dish and disparaging it as food for pigs. Pan retorted, pointing out that he had also ordered the Buddha jumps over the wall. One girl advised Pan not to waste time on Ye Bei, referring to him dismissively. The other girl agreed, suggesting that engaging with Ye Bei would affect Pan's status. Pan added that someone like Ye Bei, an old fool, could not possibly understand the taste and deliciousness of the dish. Ye Bei stated that a dish as unimpressive as this could only fool idiots who were stupid and had too much money. Pan, astonished, asked Ye Bei to repeat himself. The servant, looking concerned, approached Ye Bei and mentioned that the dish was cooked by their chef, seeking Ye Bai's understanding. Ye Bei instructed the servant to call the chef. Pan then insisted on calling the chef, confident that Ye Bei, whom he called an old-fashioned turtle, needed to see the world. Chef Dong Lily arrived and greeted the guests, mentioning that even the renowned Pan Gongzi appreciated her dishes and asked if Ye Bei had any comments. Pan noted that Ye Bei, being just a kid in the early stage of the concentration realm, dared to question the signature dishes of a chef in the late Shenting realm, predicting that a good show was about to unfold. Onlookers murmured, remarking that Ye Bei must be crazy to cause trouble at Haitian Lao, especially after spending 5 spirit stones. Some speculated that he was just a porcelain bumper. Dong Lily then invited Ye Bei to speak. Ye Bei explained that the ingredients for the soup and Buddha jumps over the wall needed to be dried for 7 to 49 days in advance to maximize the flavor. He criticized her for using fresh ingredients instead, questioning her qualifications to be a chef. Dong Lily, internally shocked, wondered how Ye Bei knew this. Ye Bei expressed disappointment, stating that the ribs failed to bake properly without martial fire, the fish gelatin was poorly cooked and failed, the abalone was overcooked, resulting in tough meat, and the broth lacked sufficient heat to collect the juice, concluding it was a failure. The servant thought to himself that this young man's understanding of food was even deeper than the master's. Ye Bei boldly asked if the dish presented was truly the chef's signature dish. Pan, addressing his girlfriend, mocked Ye Bei for daring to question the dishes of a chef from the late Shenting realm despite being in the early stage of the concentration realm, expecting an entertaining scene. The servant, kneeling in apology before Ye Bei, pleaded for forgiveness, acknowledging Ye Bai's seniority and admitting his mistake. Witnessing this, Pan and his girlfriend were shocked. Pan grabbed the servant's collar, outraged that despite Ye Bei criticizing the cooking, the servant still bowed to him, accusing him of being out of his mind. The servant explained that Ye Bai's critique was accurate, admitting that the monster beast Buddha jumps over the wall he made was indeed rubbish. Enraged, Pan accused the servant of indirectly insulting his taste by admitting to serving rubbish. In response, Ye Bei defended the servant, suggesting that perhaps Pan truly enjoyed eating rubbish. Pan angrily exclaimed, demanding to know what Ye Bei had said. He threatened Ye Bei, warning him that he was seeking death. Using his energy, Pan launched a fireball towards Ye Bei, who stood his ground and absorbed the impact, causing the table to explode upon impact. Ye Bei retorted, questioning Pan's audacity to act so recklessly. Onlookers nearby commented in shock that Pan had dared to provoke a disciple of the Scarlet Sun Sect, fearing for Pan's safety. Ye Bei mocked Pan's display of power, taunting him for his lack thereof. In response, Pan threatened Ye Bei, demanding to be released or else he would kill him. Ye Bei, unfazed, challenged Pan to demonstrate his capabilities. Using his power, Ye Bei effortlessly threw Pan outward. A bystander approached Pan cautiously, addressing him as young master. Outside, bystanders exclaimed that the store was in trouble with the Scarlet Sun Sect and urged everyone to escape quickly, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. Pan cried out in pain, prompting Ye Bei to approach and mock his vulnerability. The servant speculated that despite Ye Bei being in the concentration realm, he had defeated young Master Pan, who was in the late stage of the Tongzuan realm, with just one move. The servant addressed Ye Bei respectfully as ex-senior and expressed concern about the trouble Ye Bei was now in. Ye Bei reassured the servant, explaining that he had only abolished Pan's cultivation base and hadn't taken his life. The servant, shocked by the implications of cultivation base abolition, remarked that it would be better to die than to lose one's cultivation base. He suggested helping Ye Bei delay and escape the city quickly. The servant emphasized the Scarlet Sun Sect's power in Yunfan city, noting that several elders had reached the realm of saints and their sect master had achieved the Saint King realm a century ago. He warned that by disabling their core disciples, Ye Bei had earned the eternal enmity of the Scarlet Sun Sect. Ye Bei confidently stated that he wouldn't worry about the Scarlet Sun Sect, claiming he would destroy as many of them as they sent. He then expressed his hunger and the need to fill his stomach first. The servant, observing Ye Bai's calm demeanor despite having offended the Scarlet Sun Sect, wondered aloud about his identity. Ye Bei then asked if the servant could help him get in touch with their big boss. The servant clarified if Ye Bei was referring to the master chef. Ye Bei acknowledged this and mentioned that he knew the master chef hadn't been managing the restaurant in Yunfan City regularly for a long time. The servant explained that Mrs. Chef had entrusted all these properties to her disciples. Ye Bei commented that he had suspected it wouldn't be so straightforward and questioned why the system would assign him such a seemingly simple task. While eating fish, Ye Bei asked if the servant knew the whereabouts of the Jinyi Anbu in Yunfan City. Confused, the servant asked if it was a sect. Ye Bei decided to drop the topic and instructed the servant to arrange for his food and lodging for the next few days. The servant agreed to Ye Bai's request. The Scarlet Sun Sect then appeared. There was astonishment at the news that Wenhong's cultivation had been abolished. A member affirmed, "Yes, sovereign." An elder remarked approvingly of Fan Xiaotong's actions against their sect's disciple, saying, "Good for you, Fan Xiaotong." Onlookers urged the patriarch to calm down, emphasizing that a young man at the first level of the condensation realm had injured their young master and abolished Wenhong's cultivation in one move, indicating his exceptional skill. They advised caution, noting that 3 elders were leading squads to seize treasure at the Night Emperor's tomb, urging the patriarch not to cause trouble at this critical time. An elder expressed determination, stating that someone should be sent immediately to monitor the movements of Haitian Leo and the young man. Once the 3 elders completed their task, he vowed to destroy the young man into thousands of pieces. 2 girls stood nearby, with the one in black cloth punching the coffin and expressing disbelief that someone would dare steal a master's body. She identified herself as Lai Yushin, rank 20, cultivating the way of architecture, and emphasized the master's body was beyond ordinary body refining, valuable only to the Lord of the Holy Land. Xiao Fufu intervened, alerting them that someone triggered the outer city ban and broke the formation. The girl in black cloth grabbed her sword, ready to defend fiercely, declaring that they wouldn't just give a warning, but would treat the intruders as enemies invading their home. On the other side, everyone moved towards the interior, commenting on the power of the 3 elders and marveling at how quickly they broke through the ban. A person noted that this time they were certain to obtain a large number of treasures. Another questioned why the coffin cracked open without them doing anything. The girl in black cloth arrived and angrily questioned those who came to rob the tomb. Someone replied, asking if they weren't there for the same purpose and demanding they leave the treasure to spare their lives. Xiao Fufu suggested leaving a few alive, but the girl in black cloth decided to keep only the one who talked too much. One of the intruders stated confidently that despite being outnumbered, they had strong fighters and were prepared to act aggressively against the girls. Subsequently, they all attacked the girls. Xiao Fufu began to release energy from within herself, stunning everyone who saw. As all the attackers moved to attack, she unleashed her energy. Upon seeing this, someone exclaimed about the regal formation and expressed disbelief that they couldn't muster the strength to counter it. They questioned Xiao Fufu about her connection to the soul-devouring demon and her knowledge of the formation. Xiao Fufu then threw her aura over the person's hands, who pleaded not to be killed. She used soul-searching, followed by a strike with her fists, causing the person to scream in pain. Senior sister also slapped the boy. Su Yuanhao intervened, addressing Xiao Fufu about her lack of progress in mastering memory theft compared to their master's ability. Xiao Fufu responded that she was striving to reach their master's power. Su Yuanhao then teased her playfully. Xiao Fufu then suggested they go to Yunfan City towards the Scarlet Sun Sect, and both sisters began to leave. Here's a recap in indirect speech. On the other side, Ye Bei was cultivating at home and remarked that unexpectedly, within half a day, he had broken through to the second stage of the concentration realm. He expressed satisfaction with his qualifications that could change his life against all odds and wondered if he could achieve another breakthrough within a month. Looking out the window, Ye Bei exclaimed upon seeing something unexpected in Yunfan City and went near the window to ask the servant about the commotion outside. The servant explained that many people had witnessed a ship the size of a mountain flying across the sky. Ye Bei was intrigued by the idea of a flying ship of such immense size possibly landing in Yunfan City. The servant agreed to accompany him, and as they hurried along, the servant thought about how he almost lost Ye Bei. Considering how quickly Ye Bei had progressed from the first level to breaking through a realm in just half a day. Ye Bei looked up and recognized the ship as Noah's Ark belonging to Lai Yushin, ranked 20th, who had created the ship herself. They speculated whether the ship belonged to the Scarlet Sun Sect since it was hovering nearby. As they approached home, Su Yuanhao called out angrily, demanding Su Yuanhao to come out. Observers commented on the audacity of the girl insulting Su Yuanhao openly, considering Su Yuanhao's status as a saint. Ye Bei thought to himself that he had finally found the first apprentice. Ye Bei and the servant stood outside the house. Ye Bei thought to himself that although he didn't personally need to deal with the Scarlet Sun Sect, he wondered why Lai Yushin was in conflict with them. Su Yuanhao pondered that he had never expected the Scarlet Sun Sect to infiltrate the Night Emperor's tomb 13 times in the past 2 years, causing significant disturbances each time. Su Yuanhao stated firmly that the disappearance of the master's body was undoubtedly linked to the Scarlet Sun Sect. An elder approached Su Yuanhao. Su Yuanhao asked the elder who he was. The elder replied that the name of the patriarch was not something Su Yuanhao could use casually. Instead, he identified himself as an elder of the Scarlet Sun Sect. People standing behind the elder exclaimed that this elder had recently advanced to the 8th layer of the Saint Realm. They marveled at his mastery of the Avenue of Swords, which allowed him to effortlessly cut through mountains and rivers with sword energy. They expressed great interest in witnessing the demeanor of such a remarkable elder. Su Yuanhao warned the elder not to rush to his death, telling him it wasn't his time yet. The elder, waving his sword, exclaimed about the tumultuous situation. Su Yuanhao asked if that was all he had. Then a fight broke out between them, during which Su Yuanhao blasted energy towards the elder, knocking him back. The elder thought to himself about Su Yuanhao's remarkable power, noting that only the patriarch could possess such strength. Su Yuanhao then unleashed powerful energy again from her palm. The elder speculated whether Su Yuanhao could be a strong Saint King. Assessing the situation, he realized that if it continued like this, it would be extremely detrimental to him. Su Yuanhao attacked the elder once more with a blast, but the elder managed to evade and taunted her, asking if she wanted to run away. Su Yuanhao responded defiantly with her sword and energy, saying it wouldn't be that easy. The elder attempted to flee, but Su Yuanhao blasted him again and he fell lifeless. Onlookers exclaimed in surprise that the great elder of the 8th level of the Saint Realm had been defeated so decisively. Another person wondered aloud who this powerful girl was and why she had come to cause trouble at the Scarlet Sun Sect. Someone else questioned why she was there, and another person recognized her as the Fairy of Divine Architecture, Miss Yushin. They wondered aloud what had angered her. Su Yuanhao brandished her sword and demanded that all stolen items from the Night Emperor's tomb be handed over. She declared that she might spare the others' lives. Then, emitting a powerful aura from her sword, she vowed that the person must die. She then released her attack. The elder responded defiantly, using his fingers to emit an aura, questioning Su Yuanhao's right to speak out in the Scarlet Sun Sect. He mocked her for being a practitioner of the auxiliary way, implying she had no authority to threaten his life. He then clashed directly with Su Yuanhao, explaining the concept of the auxiliary way, which involves using practical skills like cooking, construction, forging, and medicine refining to enter cultivation. The elder continued to belittle Su Yuanhao. He arrogantly stated that if he were to defeat her as a demon cultivator, many would cheer. Su Yuanhao challenged him further, sarcastically agreeing with his assessment and daring him to try. She then declared her attack, targeting the Scarlet Sun Sect without hesitation. The elder, using his inner energy swiftly, stopped the descending sword and ordered, "Initiate the formation." All those beside him aimed their swords at the approaching danger. A bystander, observing the scene, exclaimed, "How could this happen? It's a magic array. Truly unexpected." As people hurriedly fled, fearing the unpredictable flying swords, they commented, "Hurry and run. If those flying swords come our way, we won't stand a chance." It's terrifying. This isn't an airship, it's a massive killing machine. With this setup, it wouldn't take long to wipe out a sect. Meanwhile, Ye Bei and his servant observed from a distance. The servant suggested to Ye Bei, "Senior, why don't we slip away?" Ye Bei reassured him, saying, "Don't worry, it's lively here." "Take another look." The elder, mocking Su Yuanhao, challenged, "Hut, you think I'm easy to deal with?" He then unleashed sword energy from within towards Su Yuanhao, provoking her into shouting in anger. On the other side, Ye Bei chuckled as he looked over there, commenting to his servant about the suit's effectiveness in evading the joint sword energy. The servant, intrigued, asked Ye Bei what was amusing about it and remarked on the suit's coolness for its swift defensive capabilities. Ye Bei agreed, noting that the suit deserved recognition as his apprentice's choice. Meanwhile, Su Yuanhao retaliated using her techniques, unleashing red energy that struck down the elder's companions one by one. Following this, the elder countered by using a chain from his hand to bind Su Yuanhao's hands and feet. Su Yuanhao, realizing her oversight, cursed her carelessness. The elder blamed Su Yuanhao for forcing him into this situation, releasing more energy towards her. In response to the escalating confrontation, Su Yuanhao expressed a sense of impending defeat, realizing the severity of her predicament. Xiao Fufu threatened retaliation against Su Yuanhao for harming her senior sister, vowing to use the Scarlet Sun Sect's power to turn the situation around. Despite this threat, the elder continued to direct energy towards Su Yuanhao, while Xiao Fufu moved closer to intervene. The elder exclaimed that it was Zhuge Fu, expressing surprise that a demonic cultivator like him was on the airship. He threatened to kill Lei Yushin first and then Zhuge Fu. Xiao Fufu reacted strongly, challenging the elder's intentions. Su Yuanhao, aiming to break free from the elder's iron chain, threw her sword towards him. However, Xiao Fufu's attempt to break the chain with her sword failed, leaving her shocked. The elder scoffed at Su Yuanhao's attempt, questioning if she thought she could break his sword Dao with her limited ability. Xiao Fufu cried out to her sister in concern. At that moment, Ye Bei intervened and attacked the elder. The elder laughed triumphantly, taunting Ye Bei to go to hell. Ye Bei confidently asserted that no one could harm them while he was around, directing his aura towards the elder. The elder, astonished and troubled, realized Ye Bei had blocked his strongest blow without a scratch. He wondered how Ye Bei had managed such a feat. Meanwhile, Su Yuanhao successfully broke the iron chain. Xiao Fufu recognized Ye Bei as Zhuge Fu's apprentice and introduced him to their master. Su Yuanhao similarly introduced herself as Lei Yushin's apprentice to their master. Ye Bei instructed them both not to be courteous and to focus on dealing with the enemy behind them. Xiao Fufu acknowledged Ye Bei as their master and prepared to act accordingly. Ye Bei thought to himself that despite the physical body being dead, the soul remained intact. He believed that if they teamed up, defeating each other would be as stable as a mountain. Upon witnessing the elder unleashing a powerful aura, the two girls exclaimed that it was the breath of the emperor. The Scarlet Emperor of the Starlight Holy Land declared that they should abandon their cultivation or face consequences. Xiao Fufu responded defiantly, refusing to comply. Meanwhile, Su Yuanhao thought to herself that their master was observing the battle. She vowed not to surrender even if it meant facing death. Ye Bei stated that attempting to intimidate others with the divine will of the great emperor didn't mean they had divine authority. During the ongoing events, discussions among those below centered on the astonishing feat witnessed. A figure who had managed to deflect Su Yuanhao's formidable sword energy was purportedly only at the second level of the condensation realm. Another individual incredulously remarked that this seemed impossible, speculating that the person must have concealed their true level of cultivation. A third person dismissed the notion, arguing that someone at the condensation realm level shouldn't possess such extraordinary abilities like standing in the void. The Scarlet Emperor responded with authority, questioning anyone who dared to disobey orders in this situation. The elder, affirming their allegiance, emphasized that they were in the domain of the Starlight Holy Land, not the central region, before initiating their next move. Ye Bei, observing the scene, expressed impatience with the ongoing chatter. Su Yuanhao urgently called out to their master, seeking guidance and support. Xiao Fufu echoed the call, reinforcing their loyalty to their master. Ye Bei, with a determined tone, declared their resolve to reclaim what was owed, hinting at past grievances left unsettled for centuries. The Scarlet Emperor, visibly angered, denounced defiance and vowed consequences. In private thought, the Scarlet Emperor puzzled over unexpected developments involving a divine needle, clearly perturbed by the ongoing implications. Ye Bei, maintaining composure amidst the chaos, smiled knowingly. Upon the arrival of the Flame Emperor, all present paid their respects, recognizing the gravity of the unfolding situation. Concerned voices pleaded with the Flame Emperor to intervene and seek help from the healer saint, urgently notifying other emperors of the unfolding crisis. The Flame Emperor demanded an explanation, seeking clarity on the alarming events transpiring. Others relayed the details of how the Scarlet Emperor had been struck by a mysterious divine needle, causing immediate distress and prompting urgent action. Examining the Scarlet Emperor closely, the Flame Emperor was visibly shocked by what he discovered. The Flame Emperor remarked that the injury was not mere trauma, but a severe one. He expressed concern that without the Scarlet Blood Miner Soul Technique's intervention, such an injury could have been fatal. At that moment, two disciples approached the Flame Emperor. He asked them who was responsible and whom the Scarlet Emperor had offended. All the disciples bowed in reverence, amazed that Senior Ye Bei had managed to defeat the Emperor's shadow in a single move. They were astounded to learn that he was the master of the two disciples. Elsewhere, Su Yuanhao exclaimed with joy upon seeing the master return, expressing how much she missed him and how glad she was to see him again. Meanwhile, Xiao Fufu assured the master that he had discovered an ancient immortal king's secret realm, where there must be a powerful ancient immortal formation capable of reviving him. Xiao Fufu vowed to do whatever it took, even if it cost his life, to ensure the master's resurrection. Ye Bei reassured them, telling them not to cry as crying would not befit his pretty apprentices. Su Yuanhao exclaimed to Xiao Fufu, questioning if she was dreaming, overwhelmed that the master had just spoken to her. Xiao Fufu expressed his emotions, remarking that after 300 years of waiting, he finally saw the master up close. Su Yuanhao then urged Xiao Fufu to hit her, needing reassurance that all this was real. Ye Bei explained to both of them that if he were just a divine mind, he would have run out of energy and dissipated automatically. Crying, Su Yuanhao questioned if it was truly the master who had returned. Ye Bei confirmed with enthusiasm that indeed, he was resurrected and back. Seeing Xiao Fufu holding Su Yuanhao, she expressed her fear that it might all be a dream. Ye Bei checked the system hint and noted that encountering his apprentices had unlocked rewards, 10 times faster cultivation speed for the host version and a ring plus 100 years of cultivation for each apprentice. Ye Bei remarked that the speed of absorbing aura had indeed become nearly 10 times stronger. Ye Bei pondered, considering that if he found a few more apprentices, he could potentially increase his cultivation speed by 50 times, 100 times, or even more. However, he wondered how to utilize the reward of adding 100 years of cultivation for each apprentice. Checking the system, Ye Bei learned that it only required the host to touch the apprentice and have the intention to assign the reward. Surprised by the simplicity, Ye Bei questioned if indirect contact was possible. The system confirmed that it was indeed possible. Taking the whip in hand, Ye Bei exclaimed in surprise at this discovery. Su Yuanhao exclaimed joyously upon seeing the whip, marveling that the master had truly come alive, finding it incredible. Ye Bei admonished them, reminding Su Yuanhao of her role as an array mage and an architect, and questioned the two auxiliary cultivators whether they intended to challenge a strong sword cultivator of the same realm. He ordered them each to take a whip without resistance. The two girls turned around and acknowledged their mistake, pleading for the master's punishment. Ye Bei then whipped Xiao Fufu, causing her to scream in pain, and followed by whipping Su Yuanhao, who also cried out in pain. Continuing to whip them, Ye Bei remarked that if he hadn't been in Yunfan City that day, their foolish actions might have led to dire consequences. Xiao Fufu, in shock, speculated aloud that her cultivation base was violently increasing, wondering if the master was somehow involved. She then questioned Ye Bei about his actions, asking what he was doing. Xiao Fufu pleaded with the master to take back the reward, expressing their mistake and inability to accept such a gift, especially since he had just been resurrected. She urged him to retract it quickly. Ye Bei responded, stating that he had the authority to make his own decisions and encouraged the two girls to accept their punishment. He then told them to get up. The girls cried out in pain and then thanked the master for the gift. Ye Bei remarked that now he needed to find more apprentices, or else the two auxiliary apprentices would always lack attack power. The girls pleaded with the master, admitting their uselessness and failure to protect their senior sisters. They begged him to punish them. Ye Bei explained that unexpectedly, the 9 holy lands were responsible for causing their separation and disintegration. Now that he was back, he intended to settle all scores one by one. Su Yuanhao mentioned to the master that Sister Tai Bai was also in the central Yuan domain, but forgot to mention something about her. Xiao Fufu exclaimed, "Sister." Ye Bei inquired about what was wrong with Tai Bai and speculated that with her talent and aptitude, she should have become an emperor after 300 years, right? Xiao Fufu explained that after Tai Bai broke through the half-emperor level, she used her own power to attack the Star Obsidian Holy Land. No one knew what happened afterward. Ye Bei expressed frustration that it was the Star Obsidian Holy Land again. He then asked where Tai Bai was now. Su Yuanhao responded, saying she was in Logan City at Tai Bai Villa. Ye Bei decided that he initially wanted Su Yuanhao to stay and stabilize the realm for 2 days, but now it seemed unnecessary. He instructed them to depart immediately for Logan City. Both girls responded eagerly, saying, "Yes, master." 3 days later, aboard Noah's Ark, Ye Bei commented that it had taken only 3 days to break through 5 realms, which he considered somewhat slow in speed. Xiao Fufu remarked upon seeing Master that he had resumed cultivation rapidly, contrasting with a norm where most people struggle to advance even a single realm in a year. Su Yuanhao reacted with surprise or hesitation. Ye Bei expressed satisfaction, anticipating a breakthrough to the next realm soon. A voice from the aircraft announced that in due time another batch of cards could be unlocked. 1 day later, a person approached Ye Bei. Ye Bei asked them to share everything they knew about Tai Bai Villa. The person asked Ye Bei if he planned to attend the martial arts meeting with wine at the villa. Ye Bei was intrigued by the idea of a martial arts meeting involving wine. The person then explained that the villa's owner had been injured for some time, leading to a decline in strength. Rumors suggested they now spent their days consumed with wine due to their deteriorating cultivation base, even selling wine to maintain their family's wealth. The person explained that Tai Bai Villa was once at its peak, attracting many swordsmen eager to learn sword techniques, but now it has fallen into decline, which he considered a pity. Su Yuanhao stood up, angrily declaring that it was nonsense, mentioning his 4th sister. Ye Bei calmed Su Yuanhao down, who then apologized for being reckless. Ye Bei noted that although he didn't know why Tai Bai had declined as a teacher, he excelled at wake-up service. During the day at Tai Bai Villa, many people were present. Ye Bei, with his face covered, took a bottle of wine, asking for it from the next person. Observing this, people remarked on the small wine bottle, speculating it could sell for a few pieces of spiritual stones, even its appearance, and the extraordinary wine it must contain. They figured the boy should have no problem trading it. When Ye Bei took the bottle, the person told him to be careful and asked who he was. Pouring wine into a cup, Ye Bei remarked that the wine was extremely precious and 1 cup would be enough for the owner. The person took the cup, initially finding just a cup too picky, but then exclaimed at the fragrance, stating that drinking this sip of wine made life worth it. Ye Bei asked the person to convey 2 more messages to the master. The person agreed, asking him to proceed. The first message was, "If the owner of the house can be drunkard, I don't know where he is." The second message was a poem, a bucket of wine, a long song, a sword in the sky. The person then said he would bring the wine to the owner. Su Yuanhao, holding on to Ye Bei, remarked that the master was being partial, expressing a desire to drink too. Xiao Fufu also requested a small bite. Ye Bei warned them that if they persisted, he would not be polite. Shanner was seen practicing with a sword. Nearby, Tai Bai was drinking wine with many bottles scattered around. Shanner urged the master to stop drinking, having done so for many days. Tai Bai explained that Shanner was still young and didn't understand. Tai Bai also critiqued the recent swordsmanship practice, saying it was fine but too focused on form without paying attention to momentum, emphasizing the importance of moving naturally, becoming one with the sword, and the infinite subtleties and changes involved. Shanner explained that the master was likely behaving this way because it was the anniversary of the master's death. Tai Bai then instructed Shanner to take a break and continue practicing the sword later, expressing it was time for wine. Shanner acknowledged the instruction. Old Wei arrived and announced that the wine had been delivered. Tai Bai, descending from the sofa, questioned the quantity before approaching Old Wei and taking the wine from him. Tai Bai recognized the wine as an immortal product and mused that being drunk might allow a reunion with the master, expressing deep longing for the deceased master. Tai Bai asked Old Wei if the wine was also delivered by someone in line. Old Wei confirmed this, mentioning that it was likely from a significant family's son, with a focus on the 7-layer cultivation base. The person had also asked Old Wei to relay a few words. Upon hearing the first message, "If the owner of the house can be a drunkard, I don't know where he is." Tai Bai dropped the cup in shock, then angrily grabbed Old Wei, demanding to know the second message. Old Wei recited the second message, a poem, a bucket of wine, a long song, a sword in the sky. Tai Bai asked where the man was, and Old Wei replied that he was waiting at the door. The girl started heading outside, and after she left, Old Wei wondered aloud what happened and what was wrong with the owner. Xiao Fufu, seeing Tai Bai, noted that the 4th sister was present. Ye Bei instructed everyone to remain calm and not reveal any flaws. Ye Bei and Xiao Fufu approached with their faces covered. Tai Bai questioned Ye Bei if the glass of wine from earlier belonged to him. Ye Bei confirmed and remarked that Tai Bai had deteriorated significantly, but he vowed to hone Tai Bai into a sharp sword once again, even if Tai Bai had become useless. Tai Bai then asked if Ye Bei had recited those 2 poems, to which Ye Bei responded affirmatively. Tai Bai inquired who had told him those poems and began approaching Ye Bei. Ye Bei asked Tai Bai if she was satisfied with the wine he had given. Tai Bai, feeling that the three people made her feel familiar, demanded to know who Ye Bei really was. Ye Bei stated that he would reveal his identity soon, but first they should complete the wine for goods exchange. Tai Bai agreed, asking what Ye Bei wanted since the owner was satisfied with the wine. Ye Bei explained that he was a sword practitioner and requested that the owner lower her cultivation base to the same level as his. He insisted that she must not regain her strength until the competition ended. Tai Bai agreed to his terms. They then moved to the martial arts field, where Tai Bai and Ye Bei stood facing each other with their swords. Tai Bai mentioned she could only practice until dusk due to limited time. Ye Bei noted that Tai Bai was aware and had willingly lowered her cultivation level to the first level of the condensation realm, which made it easier to teach. Xiao Fufu, holding Su Yuan Hao, remarked that while God might forgive sins, one cannot escape the consequences of their actions, implying that Tai Bai was responsible for her own fate. Tai Bai told Ye Bei to begin and advised him to use his strongest sword technique to avoid losing in the first round. Ye Bei responded skeptically. Tai Bai warned him to be careful, and Ye Bei started his practice and moved forward. Observing Ye Bai's numerous but traceable sword ki, Tai Bai thought that while his swordsmanship was good, it was somewhat rigid and lacked agility. As Tai Bai moved forward, she predicted Ye Bai's right side raid and informed him that she had seen through his attack. However, as she swung her sword in the air, she was surprised and confused. Ye Bei also swung his sword, and they ended up facing each other. Stepping back, Ye Bei remarked that Tai Bai should wave her sword when she sees the opportunity. Tai Bai, shocked by the possibility of this technique, witnessed a blast between them, causing her to sit down on one knee. Ye Bei advised Tai Bai not to underestimate the enemy on the field of life and death, as it was the #1 taboo. Xiao Fufu commented to Su Yuan Hao that the fourth sister lost in the first round, and Su Yuan Hao agreed, acknowledging the undiminished power of their master. Tai Bai admitted to underestimating Ye Bei and vowed to keep going using her Kinglian sword technique. She noted that she had taken it lightly but promised that it wouldn't be so easy next time. As Tai Bai emitted aura from her sword, she used the second style of the Kinglian sword technique. Xiao Fufu explained that the Kinglian sword technique was the strongest technique of the fourth senior sister. As Tai Bai attacked with her sword ki, she warned that if Ye Bei didn't come at her, he would die by her hand. Ye Bei attacked Tai Bai again with his sword, causing her to scream in pain and fall down. Ye Bei suggested that the owner raise her cultivation base to be the same as his. This angered Tai Bai, who then used her sword technique, attacking with the Kinglian sword technique, the third style, Kinglian sword song. Ye Bei struck her sword, sending it flying through the air. Tai Bai fell to the ground, thinking to herself that while the first and second defeats could be seen as accidents, the third defeat indicated that this young man was extremely familiar with her and her sword techniques. He seemed to know her every move and could calculate all her attacks. Tai Bai asked who Ye Bei was, to which he responded with, "Who am I? Do it." Xiao Fufu then called out to Tai Bai, who looked in her direction. At that moment, a circle formed above, indicating a trap. Tai Bai, realizing she had been outsmarted, thought about how her cultivation base was dropping rapidly and how this was possible. Tai Bai reflected that from the start, when the wine was delivered, she had been led step by step into this trap. First, her mentality was disturbed with 2 lines of poetry. Then she was made to suppress her cultivation base, which reduced her perception ability, and finally, she was led into this forbidden spirit array. Shanner, seeing this, screamed out, "Master!" Tai Bai, looking towards Shanner, instructed her not to come closer. Shanner, however, attacked Ye Bei, declaring she would never allow anyone to hurt Tai Bai. Tai Bai called out to Shanner as she approached Ye Bei. Ye Bei remarked that Tai Bai was still trying to protect others even when dying, asserting it was useless and that everyone would die today. Tai Bai attacked Ye Bei, stating that sealing her power wouldn't render her powerless. Both of them clashed their auras, resulting in an explosion. Su Yuan Hao observed that the master might have gone too far, expressing concern that senior sister Sai appeared desperate to fight. Xiao Fufu responded that they must hold back and trust the master, regardless of the situation. Tai Bai, addressing Ye Bei, mentioned a killing intent. Ye Bei then charged forward. Tai Bai thought to herself, puzzled, wondering how Ye Bai's speed had increased despite his cultivation base being sealed, noting that he was even faster than before. Ye Bei attacked Tai Bai, leaping and punching her, but Tai Bai countered with her own punch. However, Ye Bei managed to punch Tai Bai in the leg, causing her to be thrown back and roll away. Furious, Tai Bai wondered why Ye Bei could easily penetrate her defenses every time. Approaching Tai Bai, Ye Bei questioned her strength, stating that she couldn't even protect those around her and thus had no right to fall into decadence. He further accused Tai Bai's master of being the culprit for her condition. Ye Bei attacked Tai Bai, leaping and punching her, but Tai Bai countered with her own punch. However, Ye Bei managed to punch Tai Bai in the leg, causing her to be thrown back and roll away. Furious, Tai Bai wondered why Ye Bei could easily penetrate her defenses every time. Approaching Tai Bai, Ye Bei questioned her strength, stating that she couldn't even protect those around her, and thus had no right to fall into decadence. He further accused Tai Bai's master of being the culprit for her condition. Tai Bai attacked Ye Bei again, but he dodged, remarking how close the attack was. Enraged, Tai Bai declared that Ye Bei could insult anyone, but not her master, coming to kill him that day. Ye Bei noted it was almost done, describing the process of grinding, beating, and recasting, mentioning the final step of hardening and forming. The system hinted at re-encountering an apprentice and rewarded him with Xuan Yuan's sword intent and an apprentice version. Ye Bei commanded to extract Xuan Yuan's sword intent and attack Tai Bai with his energy-infused sword. Meanwhile, three people standing at a distance conversed, speculating that the direction appeared to be the Tai Bai's sword villa, possibly indicating the birth of a great treasure. The second person agreed, comparing the intense battle to the emergence of a significant treasure. The third person suggested they should go and take a look, emphasizing that such a vision had not occurred in hundreds of years, making this a rare opportunity. A sword descended upon Tai Bai, leaving her shocked. Shanner screamed for her sister as Tai Bai looked over, seeing Xiao Fufu and Su Yuanhao holding her. Tai Bai, determined, thought she couldn't die yet as she had to take care of Shan Shan, find her sisters, and her respected master. This realization made Tai Bai furious. Xiao Fufu was harassing Shanner, who yelled in distress. Suddenly, a tremendous blast occurred. Shanner, drawing her sword, declared that she wouldn't let the bad guys get away with it. Shanner approached Xiao Fufu with a sword, striking her chest, causing Xiao Fufu to scream in pain. Shanner then stepped back, bewildered. Xiao Fufu, addressing Ye Bei, exclaimed that Shanner's sister drank excessively, was depressed, neglected her sword skills, and needed awakening. Shanner protested fiercely, defending her sister as the best person in her heart. Ye Bei responded that regardless of Shanner's opinion, he believed he was the only one capable of helping her sister. Shanner wondered about Ye Bei's identity, noting his outspoken nature. She demanded to know what Ye Bei had done to her sister and whether she would be all right. Ye Bei assured Shanner that her sister couldn't die, and that if she could control and absorb the Xuan Yuan sword intent, it would be beneficial for her. Shanner then mentioned the formidable figures in Logan City, including the owners of Candle Dragon Villa, the Changsun family patriarch, and the Heavy Sky Sect patriarch, all powerful in the Holy King realm. Shanner expressed concern that her sister had yet to awaken. Looking towards Ye Bei, Shanner expressed shock, noting the incredible strength of these individuals and questioning how Ye Bei could remain so calm in the face of such powerful adversaries. The owner of Candle Dragon Villa, looking down, remarked that the owner of Tai Bai's Sword Villa seemed to be refining some treasure. The patriarch of the Changsun family dismissed the observation, stating he had witnessed her rise from the 7th layer of the Saint King realm to half-emperor status. The patriarch of the Heavy Sky Sect exclaimed at the unprecedented speed of her advancement, believing it must be a sword treasure. Standing beside them, another person speculated that obtaining this treasure might pave the way for them to become an emperor, urging immediate action to seize the opportunity. Behind them, someone cautioned against hasty actions, reminding them of the formidable reputation of Tai Bai's Sword Villa. The person continued, suggesting that with so many forces present, it would be difficult for anyone to risk making a move against them. Xiao Fufu warned the person, stating that their master had just attained profound insight into the way of the sword, and anyone advancing further would be considered an enemy of Tai Bai's Sword Villa, bearing responsibility for their actions. The individual then attempted to attack Xiao Fufu with their sword, but it shattered upon impact, causing blood to spill. Witnessing this, both individuals became fearful, realizing that Xiao Fufu's palm technique was not typical of a practitioner from the 5th-level Divine Court realm. They speculated that she must have concealed her true cultivation level and concluded that she was incredibly strong, likely at the peak of the Saint King realm or even a half-emperor. Su Yuanhao mentioned that originally he had intended to handle only one person but hadn't controlled the situation well, and he vowed to be more careful next time. The bystanders were shocked and exclaimed at his lack of control and determination to try again, expressing frustration. Tai Bai regained consciousness, and both individuals remarked in disbelief that she had elevated her cultivation base to the peak of a half-emperor. Another person commented on the rarity of such strength in Logan City, speculating that if she advanced one more step, she would reach the legendary realm of the Great Emperor. Tai Bai opened her eyes and called out to Shanner, relieved that her sister was unharmed. She then confronted Ye Bei with her sword drawn, demanding to know his identity for the last time. Ye Bei removed his mask and acknowledged his lateness as a teacher.